Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. Zanin Pitts out as the head coach of the Arley Warriors boys basketball team. And the Blues, for the first time in franchise history, bring home the cup. It is Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting to you live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Outstanding to be with all of you. Thanks for spending time with us on your radios around Western Montana, on SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Across the state of Montana, great to be with you there, and around the globe on YouTube television, the channel Tutel and Nuanez. Check it out everywhere and always. That's right. We want to be ubiquitous in your life. We're very, very arrogant that way. The stream, it's available online, 1029ESPN.com. The stream is there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. That way you can listen to us no matter where you are in relationship to your radio, whether you're a long ways from your radio, whether your radio is a long ways from the signal, no matter what, you can get on, you can listen. It's great that way. You can also pick up your telephone and give us a ring. 329-1899, the phone number, area code 406-329-1899. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Huge show today. Really excited about what we got going on. Big news out of Arley. Yesterday evening, Frank Gogol breaking the story that Zanin Pitts has resigned as the head coach of the Arley Warriors basketball team. Arley, 4 straight Class E state championships games, won the middle 2 to become state champions, a record 48 straight wins, and Zanin Pitts has resigned and has, a fair amount to say about it on his way out the door. So we will talk about that because that is a significant change at the just high school basketball in the state of Montana, and opens up a lot more questions, I think, about a lot of things. So we will get into that. We also are going to have McKenna Kramer here in studio with us. She is the Director of Advancement for the Missoula Humane Society. If you're wondering what a Director of Advancement is, so do I. So we're going to ask her, and we're going to find that out. But they got a great pet adoption event coming up tomorrow, so we'll talk to her about that. We got to get into the Stanley Cup. My goodness, Jordan Binnington. How good was this guy last night when he absolutely had to be? He was locked down. 4-1 win, and the St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup champions for the first time. Tremendous for them, and obviously very disappointing for the city of Boston and for the Bruins to lose at home in a Game 7. We'll get into that. Top of the hour, really excited about this. Our ESPN Roundtable, Jeff Choate, the head coach of the Montana State Bobcats football team, joining us on this. This aired yesterday on ESPN Radio. We'll have it here for you today on the show for you around the state of Montana, Bobcat fans out there, frankly, everybody out there who's interested in football in the state of Montana. Really interesting stuff, good stuff from Coach Choate, who never had a loss for words, always got something to say, and a great interview. And then, of course, yes, the last game in the history of Oracle Arena tonight, 7 o'clock. We will have it for you on ESPN Radio, and we will talk plenty about the game as well. So we got a ton to get to today. Hi, Colter. How we doing?
I'm hot.
Yeah? Like physically or just like you're angry?
No, I'm never angry.
Stop it.
You think I'm angry?
I mean, not right now, but
I'm never angry.
Oh, yes. I've seen you plenty angry. You can't breathe at my house.
Yeah. I mean, you are the only person that makes me angry. I always tell you you're the only person that doesn't annoy me, but you're actually the only person that makes me angry. Maybe that's why you never annoy me, because I'm just mad.
I skip annoyance and go straight to ire.
Well, that's better because I'm more comfortable with that, and I can just express myself way better.
Okay. Well, I'm glad.
I'm doing great, Ryan. We spent the afternoon at the ballpark.
Yes, we did.
Had an allergy attack.
Meeting day for the Missoula Osprey.
Met some Osprey. It was great.
Yeah, opening day tomorrow for the Missoula Osprey and all the Pioneer League. It's a road game for Missoula. They will be in Great Falls, so if you're up there in Great Falls, you can check out the Voyagers and the Osprey, Game 1 of the Pioneer League season. Going to go happen there, so fun to check out. Love the fact that we got baseball back in the city of Missoula, and I know that and across the state, frankly, in the Pioneer League, excited about all that. All right.
I have 3 interviews tomorrow for you guys, too, leading up to that opener.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. From what we did today. Yes, I was there for those. Yes, we do.
Just make sure you remembered an hour ago.
Yeah, I don't. Everything blacks out. All right, Colter, let's do this. This is going to be our Opportunity Bank Coach's Corner. And sometimes you got to go hunt for stories, and sometimes the story just falls in your lap. And normally we would have started today probably with the NBA or the NHL. But this is a big story, and in a certain sense, in the way that it's happened, an explosive story with the resignation of Zanen Pitts as the head coach of the Orly boys basketball team. Again, as I mentioned off the top, Orly has been the class of Class C and, frankly, a leader in all of high school basketball in the state of Montana for the past 4 or 5 years. Zanen Pitts has been the head coach there for 7 years, 2 state championships in 4 consecutive state championship game appearances, a 48-game win streak spanning the parts of 3 seasons, 1 complete season in the middle and most of 2 seasons on either side of it. And also, in addition to that, as large a happening that as I'm aware of out of the state of Montana at the high school level, that is aside from sports, with a sports team, with a high school sports team, that being the Warrior Movement and the suicide awareness movement that the Warrior Movement has started and perpetuated to the point of having, a New York Times article written about them.
Not just an article, though, an embedded journalist for a season.
Right. A cover story on the New York Times Magazine, which is a weekly feature in the Sunday Times. NBA television in town, Spike Lee calling and being involved from a distance as well. So tremendous waves of influence, both locally and nationally, and frankly even internationally, that were born out of what these kids and Zanen Pitts as the head coach did over the past couple of seasons. And then you go to last night, you text me, Zanen Pitts is done as the early head coach, and you're going, what? He's 33. You know what I mean? It's not like he's been the head coach for some amount of time, or he's getting ready to retire seasons. Or whatever. He was, first of all, give me your reaction to this when you first heard this.
Well, I got a ton of reactions to this. First and foremost, I think that it speaks to the transcendence and magnitude of the story of the Orly Warriors that we're leading this show with it, but also just how much this news resonates. I was trying to think of even though Montana is a rural place with a low population base, sports in Montana are huge. And now there's a lot of statewide sports entities with all the TV stations kind of pooling their resources together, and Lee Enterprises and all their newspapers pooling resources together, Skyline Sports and ESPN Missoula collaborating together. And so to lead the sports world over everything that's going on right now in the sports world, that takes a huge story. And I couldn't think of another Class C school over the last 20-plus years that would lead like this. But that's how big this broad story is, just how much impact these kids had just on the landscape of sports in Montana because of their success. I mean, they're one of only 2 Class C schools in the history of the division to go to 4 straight state championship games. They and Manhattan Christian were the first 2 schools in the history of boys basketball in the state of Montana, any classification, to play in 3 straight state title games. These guys, like you said, featured in the New York Times Magazine, featured on NBA TV, suicide awareness, all this exposure and recognition to the Flathead Indian Reservation, which is so big time. And I also think the fact that the other reaction I had to this was, this story came from their banquet last night. The Orly boys had their awards banquet, honoring the seniors, giving out the letters, all that stuff. I haven't confirmed this directly with Frank, but I assume that Frank was invited to this event because Frank did not have direct quotes from Zanen Pitts. He just had what Zanen Pitts told the crowd.
I attended this event last year.
Right?
Yes,
and we have been invited in the past for sure.
And it was great, tremendous. They have up there for the boys, for the team, and everything like that. In a community, I mean, there's only 600 people in Orly. that has seemed like it is completely embraced and rooted for and welcomed and loved this basketball team.
Totally. So the second reaction I had was that I think you and I would both agree the defining characteristic of Zanen Pitts is that he does everything his own way.
You are it's not going to be a question of where you stand with Mr. Pitts.
100%. And he does everything his own way. The style that they play, the take no prisoners attitude that they played with, these guys just won 90% of their games over a 7-year span. That's insane. He's 140-18. His win percentage is almost 89% over a 7-year span. 5 consecutive conference titles, 5 consecutive state tournament appearances, 4 consecutive state title game appearances. You can say, okay, he had inherited some good players. Well, there's been good players on that part of the Flathead Reservation for a long time. No one's been able to harness them like he was able to harness the Tanner kid or Philip Malatar or Will Messeth or Greg Weitzel or Lane Johnson. Any of these kids, he's harnessed it. And the style that they played, I think that's another reason why this was so transcendent. Not only do these kids represent tribal basketball to a certain extent, but they also embraced the traditions of their tribe, but they also gave a positive message to try to reinforce and revitalize the mental element of life there in Arlee. And I thought that was incredibly brave of them to take all that on. And, there has been so many really legendary Native American basketball teams in the state of Montana, but it's been a while since there's been one like this. And this was a throwback team. I mean, these guys are scoring 95 points a game. They're running you straight out the gym. And if you've ever been to one of these games, it's an unbelievable experience because they have, they do the war chant as they come in. They're wearing the headdresses, and then they just blitz you. And it's like the style and the pace, it's just insane to watch. It's so fun to watch. And I just think that all of that made them so appealing and so much more than just a Class C team or just, a reservation team. There's so much to this story. And Zanen Pitts, he's done it his own way. He's never taken any of the criticism. There's a lot of people that say, well, why you got to beat Hot Springs 95-20? And he said, well, that's just what we do. We run, we gun, we're going to score 90 against everybody. And, he's also been very, very outwardly spoken about all sorts of things, mostly in the best way. But it did not surprise me whatsoever that he was so open, so candid, and that he did this basically like, hey, this is what I think. I'm out. Thank you so much, but this is my decision.
He did not get into necessarily specifics, but he didn't at all make mince about what he feels. And so here, this is again from Frank Gogol's article at 406sportsmt.com. Zanen Pitts, and again, this is not close to a reporter. This is an open forum speech that he's giving to his team, to their parents, to members of the community, and so forth. Quote, I'm sick and tired of this administration. The administration literally just tore my passion apart for the game. It's constant aching. My gut twists every time I get phone calls, and now some of the people that they've hired as the athletic director to go from what we already were going from and the new school board, the ones that were reelected, I'm not going to put up with it anymore. I'm tired of it. They threatened to fire me, and they told me to go different places. I don't want to coach anywhere else. It doesn't even interest me. I literally love Arlee. But I don't want you guys to look at me and think that I'm dissing you or I'm leaving you. They destroyed me and my family. It's been the hardest 7 years of my life. That's why I wanted you first to know that if it wasn't for our solid, awesome family and your support, we wouldn't be able to be here now, end quote.
A couple different things. One thing that we talked about when we had Greg Weitzel, Will Messeth, and Zanen Pitts in this studio around this time last year was how broadly and from a removed 20,000-foot view, advocating for something like suicide awareness seems like nothing but a win-win, right? No one agrees with or supports or wants suicide to be as prevalent as it is in Montana. No one does.
Of course.
But there's always pushback no matter what, especially when you're addressing delicate subjects. We asked those young men about that, and they said certainly, most people have embraced it, but some people, they just don't want to talk about what has been largely a taboo subject. They don't want to be exploited. We asked Bruce Franks during the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival, the Superman of St. Louis, the guy from inner city St. Louis who basically ran for state government, was elected, and has gone to work for his people. We asked him, how do you manage the brushback you get? Because a lot of times to cross that barrier, you have to get exposure on the issues at hand. And sometimes the exposure can seem exploitative. We've talked about this a lot with Jesse Adler from the Boxers of Brule, the film that was very similar to the Warrior Movement, but it was about Native American women on a South Dakota reservation, basically boxing for suicide awareness, using boxing as a healthy outlet to acknowledge mental illness. And she said, a ton of pushback there too.
It's when you're fighting the system, and in order to continue that fight, you become a part of the system. There is an innate crossing of a line there that people don't like. And again, it's different for somebody who's maybe gone from the inner city to the chambers of state legislature than it is from a basketball team on the reservation into a YouTube video that's got 1 million+ views. But there is some correlation there, it seems.
I mean, if you live in a town of 800 people, there's going to be a fair amount of people in that town that say, why are you saying anything about our town, period? Because they want to live in the town because it's an anonymous place. That's the reason you live in an 800-person town, by and large. So why do we want the NBA TV here filming our kids? Mm-hmm. Why do we want any exposure? Why do we want the New York Times guy writing about the traditions of our tribe? And I think there's a lot of pushback there. And I also think that there's a real element. I mean, Greg Weitzel talked about this on the show last year, about the element of pride among Native people in Montana, but also how that affects the lack of communication when it comes to expressing your feelings. And I think that was one thing that the Warrior Movement tried to express was, suicide rates in Montana are higher than anywhere else in the country, but the suicide rates on the reservations in Montana are even higher than that.
Yes.
And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of different factors, but a lot of it is just, the pride in the people, but also just the lack of willingness to really outwardly talk about, again, something that is largely still taboo.
The thing about this, too, that strikes me, though, is this isn't about what Zanin says here. It's not about community members, not about parents,
not
about kids.
No.
It's about the administration at Arley High School.
Totally.
The athletic director and the board of the school board or what have you. I don't know, and he doesn't enumerate what the specifics are. I mean, when you say something like ripping my family apart,
or that they threatened to fire him. I mean, obviously there is massive personality conflicts because there's no way that they could fire him based on performance.
I mean,
right? And this run is one of the great runs in the history of high school basketball in the state of Montana, period.
And this is where I think there's a real disconnect from you and I sitting here on the radio in Missoula, which is 20 miles away and 1 million miles away.
Exactly.
From this place to sit here, because when you and I sit here, we go, this is insane. If you are in a high school that, first of all, has a team that has been as great on the court as this team has been, that has created such a voice where it is needed the most for maybe the most important thing that community is facing and that others face across the state, across the country, you would want nothing more than to have your team and your school associated with that and show nothing but the utmost happiness and promote that in every way that you possibly could. And so why that clearly not only is not happening, but the antithesis of that apparently is what has been going on is not explicable to me. And so and I don't.
Which means it's hard to talk about because there's obviously there's obviously a lot of information that we don't know that we probably won't know.
That's right. But Zanin also, in a public place, did what Zanin Pitts might do, and that is say everything that he thinks about this. Totally. And again, he didn't name names, and he didn't say, he didn't go down a list of line item individual grievances. But broadly speaking, no holds barred at the administration about this. And this to me, as I sit here, is just tremendously sad. I mean, this is a guy who is a young guy who was obviously a great coach who, look, your team doesn't play like this team played if you're disliked. I mean, you got to have a team at the least that likes you. So whether, there's always two sides to a story. I'm not sitting here saying that we know everything. We've already said that we don't. But when I look at this thing, I go, this is bad for the state. is certainly bad for Arlee basketball from my perspective, and I'm very disappointed that it has come to this point, and I hope that perhaps maybe this is the sort of thing that is a change-triggering move when you have that exposure. Now, I don't know that exposure, again, matters to the people who are in decision-making positions. I have no idea. But this is certainly a public and very vitriolic exodus that Zanen Pitts has now perpetuated.
Do you remember when you were watching the NBA TV piece on Arlee
yes.
in the office,
yes.
and I walked in
yes.
and watched it with you? What was the first thing I said?
I don't know how to feel about this.
And I said, I wonder what the people of Arlee feel about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're doing it from such a broad national lens, you're going to get the point of the story right, but are you going to get the story itself completely right? It's so hard to display life on the reservation in Montana unless you live there. I mean, you really can't describe it without, and I always worry about that too, just when in writing about this kind of stuff, or in immersing myself in this kind of stuff, or after when we had Abe Street on the show. Abe Street was the guy who wrote the New Yorker article. I told him, Abe, the best compliment I could give you is that you didn't romanticize this too much, and by and large, you got it pretty much right. And that's, I think, the hardest thing, though, is how do you, because there is an element of romanticization that can go on with these kids fighting for their people, fighting for mental health, fighting for all these broad, hot button, sensitive, but also emotional, personal issues, and I just wonder how much of the Warrior movement had to do with this obvious rift between the administration and Zanen Pitts. Because he went on to say in Frank Ogle's article in the Missoulian that the Warrior movement is going nowhere. In fact, now he's going to want to spread it. He said this is going 1,000 miles per hour, and I hope to implement these same principles, the same rallying cry to high schools across the state, high schools across the country. And that's all fine and good, but I also think there is such a huge element of pressure. Greg Weitzel went from an all-state point guard who was a team captain who people around Western Montana knew, to a kid that's doing an interview on NBA TV, talking about his own battles with depression, talking about his mom finding him with the gun to his head. And when your truth like that is exposed is the wrong word. When your truth is put on display like that, that is so hard to be able to compartmentalize and absorb when you're a young person. And I have full belief in those kids because I think that Zanen has done such a great job with guiding them and mentoring them. And, now most of them are going to college. All of them 2-year colleges, but that's a great start when you're coming from a place like Arlee. But I just wonder how everybody in that community, how this resonated with them, because I think it's one of those things where the farther you get away, the more it resonates with you on a positive level, but the closer you get, the more you can find holes in the boat, so to speak. So I don't know, man. I really do think that by and large, everything that they've done is so good, but I will not be surprised if that is the reason that a rift exists.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. I actually would hope that this is not the end of the story, that there is more to find out and more to know.
I was thinking about this, though.
And understand.
I was thinking about this, though. That I think we love sports because sports mirror life. I think the arc of a career in sports is so much like the arc of your life. You're young, you learn, you reach a peak, and then you start to decline. And how do you decline? Do you decline gracefully? And so much of that has to do with your legacy in sports. But some of the most legendary people in the history of sports are the people that never let anybody ever watch them decline. And Zanen Pitts is a great coach, and he revolutionized the way that they play basketball in that part of the world. He brought back a lot of old tenets from what has made Native American basketball in Montana so legendary and so fun to watch, so entertaining. But nothing lasts forever. And when you have a string of players like Tyler Tanner and Philip Malatar and Will Messeth and Greg Weitzel and Lane Johnson and Isaac Fisher, they're just not going to be what they were. They're not going to, I would bet almost anything. They're not going to play the state championship game next year. And so I guess what I'm getting at is, like, you look at Sonny Holland. Sonny Holland walked away from Montana State after winning the national championship. He never coached again. his numbers retired at Bobcat Stadium.
Statues out front.
Jim Brown never declined in front of anybody. Jim Brown was the best player in the NFL from the day he started till the day he ended. What I'm saying is it will be unfortunate for the youth of our communities if Zaden Pitts is no longer mentoring young men. It will be unfortunate for the community of Arlee to not have the sense of pride that they can rally around. But in terms of just the way that we remember it, it's a walk-off. I mean, basically he just said, hey, we just ran the show. We're the best Class C team ever. I'm out.
Yeah, and from a basketball, from a sports perspective, I totally agree with you. I just think there's more out there.
There is. There always is.
To find out. So we'll see. Hey, it's Tutel and Nuanez. It's been the Opportunity Bank Coach's Corner. Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. McKenna Kramer going to join us from the Humane Society. And also, we got to talk about Game 7 last night. Goodness gracious. For the first time ever, the Cup is going to the Lou.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Alpine Touch has mastered keeping your taste buds happy by spicing up anything you throw on the grill this summer. Now, let Alpine Touch keep your mouth watering whenever you want their new sunflower shooters. Their new jumbo sunflower seeds seasoned with Alpine Touch's world-famous all-purpose seasonings and Alpine Touch sunflower shooters will be available all summer at every Osprey baseball home game. Available at retail locations around the state and online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris online at kurtzpolaris.com. Offer valid in U.S. through 5/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
Still emerging from your winter hibernation and need to get your bearings straight? Cruise on down to Borda, Missoula for all your spring and summer needs. Come check out their men's and women's streetwear, sunglasses, and shoes from brands like Vans, Adidas, Thrasher, Volcom, and the original Borda, Missoula brand. They also have all your skating needs covered, from tune-ups to fresh-made custom boards. Borda, Missoula, Missoula's original board shop since 1989 on the Hip Strip, 618 South Higgins.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Following one of the most successful runs in Montana prep small school history, Zaden Pitts is no longer the head coach of the Arlee Warriors. Wednesday night, Frank Gogol of the Missoulian reported that Pitts would step away as the head boys basketball coach in Arlee after 7 seasons at the helm. Pitts cited constant clashes with the school's administration as the primary reason for his resignation.
The Warriors are one of only 2 Class C teams ever to reach 4 consecutive state title games. Arlee won back-to-back state titles in 2017 and 2018, a run that included a Class C record 48-game winning streak. Last year's Warriors, they were the runner-up to Manhattan Christian in Class C. Pitts was chosen as the Montana Class C Boys Basketball Coach of the Year for each state championship season, helping produce state MVPs Tyler Tanner and Philip Malatar, along with 8 total players who earned all-state honors. In 7 seasons, the Warriors posted a staggering 140-18 record for a win percentage of .886.
140-18.
It's crazy.
The roster for the 26th annual Knights of Columbus Badlands Bowl, the yearly all-star game pitting Montana's best versus the top prep stars from North Dakota, was finalized Wednesday. The Montana roster features 6 future Montana State Bobcats and 4 future Montana Grizzlies.
And finally, former Montana State standout Tyler Hall, the all-time leading scorer in the history of the Big Sky Conference, had a private workout with the Chicago Bulls on Wednesday. The 4-time All-Big Sky performer is from Rock Island, Illinois.
People need homes. Animals need homes. Let's put them in the same home. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. Outstanding to be with you. Hope you are well. ESPN Radio, SWX Montana TV. Howdy. At Gus Tutel, at 102.9 ESPN, and at Skyline Sports MT on your Twitter machines. We are happy to be joined now in studio by McKenna Kramer, who is the Director of Advancement at the Missoula Humane Society. Hello, McKenna. How are you? Thank you for being here.
Hi there. I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. We're certainly happy to have you. And explain this to me. What is a Director of Advancement? What does that mean for the Humane Society?
That's a great question. It's kind of a title we made up. Basically,
Good.
we do all
Ryan made up his title too.
I was guessing there. Yeah, I'm the czar of ESPN. So it doesn't really mean much.
Yeah, so I do the fundraising, marketing, stuff like that.
Okay, very good. Now, how long have you been at the Humane Society? Just pull that thing right up there. Yeah, there you go.
Coming up on 2 years now.
Coming up on 2 years that you've been there. Now, listen, the Humane Society is awesome, and there's humane societies all over the place, and people love their animals. People love animals in general. But when you get in the Humane Society, now you are that's stamping it. So what about the Humane Society, about animals in general? And you've brought Annie the dog in here, which we appreciate very much. If you're watching us on the television or on the stream, you can see her. But what got you into this?
I think what all of our staff would say, the same thing, just a love of animals. And I want to make a difference. So It's the greatest environment in the world to work in. I come in every day and I pick out a dog to hang in my office. And then you see them, a week or two later, go home, and it's just the greatest feeling in the world.
Missoula Broadcasting, it is sort of a low-end humane society here too. We got how many office pets do we have around this place?
All sorts, and they keep multiplying. We got new ones this week.
All of them, yes.
Love it.
That's what we like to hear.
I was in there a couple weeks ago, and it's great. You guys have all sorts of fun animals running around, so healthy environment. But you told me an interesting stat. You said you guys have like a 99% placement. What does that mean? How are you guys able to attain that? It seems like that means you're a pretty healthy shelter when you're placing that many animals.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our adoption rate as of last year was 99.6%, which is, one of the highest in the nation. And we're really fortunate to be here in Missoula in such a dog-friendly, pet-friendly community. People around here like to support, they like to adopt, so we're really lucky for that. We've done a lot of work over the years reducing the number of unwanted pets in our community through spay-neuter and safety net programs and stuff like that. So I think just a combination of all those things really helps us be successful.
One of the reasons that you have been so successful in terms of placement is because you come on shows like this and you say, hey, you can come get your animal tomorrow. And that is, in fact, what's happening at Romer's Tire near downtown on Broadway there in Missoula. What is this event that's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, so tomorrow at noon, we'll be out at Romer's Point S on Broadway. We're having an adoption event there. It's going to be full of puppies that are adoptable. They're adorable. You can check them out on the Humane Society of Western Montana Facebook page. We have pictures up there. Annie, that's with me right now, should be there. Some cats, some kittens, whoever we can bring from the shelter tomorrow will be there. You can come by, pick up a new family member, and leave within less than an hour.
Now, I'm interested because you said when animals get placed, you feel great. And I understand. Sure, you would want these animals. It's what you do to have a good home. But don't you feel sad? Aren't you like, oh my goodness, I love this dog, and now he or she is on their way out of here. Now, isn't it bittersweet?
That's a great question. It is really. So we place about 1,400 animals a year, and there's a few that really stick out to you, the ones you really bond with, and those are the ones where you're so happy to see them go home, but you're just a little bit sad you might never see them again. But overall, it's positive. We want them to find homes.
What's my favorite cat's name again?
Crawl.
You gotta see this guy.
You got a cat
oh
lined
man,
up down there?
he's like 30 pounds. He rules the outdoor porch. He just sprawls out. He's relaxing. He's got his own place.
So he's Coulter. Just lay out, just take it in the porch. Yeah.
Crawl will be out there tomorrow. We're hoping for Crawl. We might find a business that's interested in having a shop cat. Because he's just a big, sassy, lazy boy that would love to just lounge in the sun in your business. So if anyone's out there looking for a big, lazy cat.
You need this one, Gus. Maybe it'll eat that rabbit, and then I can come over.
I do not need a cat. All I am saying is this. So personification is when a human instantiates something. What is it when a cat instantiates something? How is this cat you? This is what I'm hearing now. Just a shop cat to just walk around and be sassy. That's what we got. Hey, we said this is at Romer's downtown. What time does this start at?
We're starting at noon.
Okay.
We recommend getting there probably early, right at noon, if you're wanting to adopt a puppy, because they are in high demand. They're absolutely adorable.
Now, I think any venue that you can use is great. How did you get involved with a tire shop? Say, hey, we're going to bring all the animals up here. You guys, do your tire rotations and all of that. We're going to get some puppies into some homes.
Yeah. So Romer's, they're locally owned and they are very community involved. So they actually approached us a couple of years ago, and they donate to us every year. They do drives for us, adoption events. They're absolutely amazing. And the month of June, they're donating a portion of their sales to us.
Cool. Well, fantastic.
So obviously the people can get involved with the Humane Society the most obvious way is by adopting pets. Any other ways they can help you guys out?
Yes. So, of course, donating is our number one. We always need donations. We're locally loved and locally funded. But we have lots of volunteer opportunities as well. Our new program is our field trip program. You can come take a dog out for a couple hours, take them on a hike, take them home to watch a movie, and bring them back. It's great for them. It's great for you. That's our new program we've been implementing. So if anyone's interested in that, you can learn all about it on our website.
What's the website, McKenna?
It's myhswm.org. But if you Google Humane Society Western Montana, you'll find us.
Very good. McKenna Kramer, thank you so much for being here. The Director of Advancement, a made-up title at the Humane Society, but an important one nonetheless. Noon tomorrow, Romer's. Go get a pet. You need one? They got them for you. They're going to be good animals for you, and you can see Annie. Annie, the dog who's here with us, going to be down there as well. McKenna, thanks so much.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Quick break. We'll be back. Game 7 in the books. St. Louis has a trophy.
Flanagan's. Stevens Avenue is where they are. Go to Flanagan's. 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 FLANHEAN Motors.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. driver. Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
You're a big league fan. You expect big league service. At the Desperado, you get exactly that. With 35 flat screens, ice cold brews on tap, and Missoula's #1 wings, you're free to sit back and enjoy every pitch. This summer, make the Desperado your baseball home away from home. Cool off after work, relax on the weekends, soak in some great food and drinks, and watch your team make yet another great push for October. And hey, if yours can't do it, there's plenty of other teams and fun to go around at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Now they always say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication.
Find Tutel and Nuanez on the World Wide Web at 1029ESPN.com. Facebook/ESPN Missoula. And for the best Big Sky coverage in the state of Montana, go to SkylineSportsMT.com. Now from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Top of the hour, 20 minutes from now, Jeff Choate, Montana State head football coach, ESPN Roundtable with us. But we got to talk a little bit of professional sports here. Start with last night in Boston, Massachusetts. You know, I love when the home team wins the championship game because I think it adds tremendously to the environment, to the experience of it, and all of that kind of stuff. But if it's going to be a road team that wins, I thought the game last night was as I don't know, it carried a lot with it. And I thought that the Boston Bruins played an outstanding game and got stopped by one man, Jordan Binnington, who was as good as I've ever seen a goalkeeper be in one game. His stops, you know, sometimes you goalie's on fire, playing great, all that kind of stuff, and also maybe isn't taking on the onslaught that Binnington saw last night, maybe is getting, quote-unquote, lucky. I've seen all kinds of saves, hitting the butt end of the stick and everything like that. Jordan Binnington was under an absolute attack, particularly in the first period yesterday. And this was the sort of game where, in hockey especially, if you don't break through when you are clearly in control of the game, the St. Louis Blues went, 11 minutes between shot attempts in the first period of the game last night. And during that space of time, Boston was peppering Jordan Binnington. And he was up to the task each and every time, and regularly in spectacular fashion on rebounds, second, third chance opportunities, A-plus chances, as they say, sliding pipe to pipe, extending out, making plays, and keeping his team in it. And then when you have knocked so very hard on the door and not been let in, to have a good but somewhat, I don't want to call it a fluky goal. It was not a fluky goal, but let's put it like this. On what was the second or third shot attempt of the game with 8 minutes left in the first period, get deflected and go 5-0 on your own goalie and be down 1-0, which Boston was, after having dominated the first 12-plus minutes of that game, is somewhat deflating. And it is almost entirely deflating when the Blues then score again with 7 seconds left in the first period to go up 2-0, and you still haven't gotten through. And all of a sudden, you end up with Brad Marchand out of breath, gets caught up in a bad spot, and you're in a 2-on-1, backhanded top shelf. See you later. It's 2-0 at the end of a first period that you were absolutely the head and shoulders better team in, and you're down 2-0. And that's the unique part of hockey. You know, Coulter, we talk about the fact that in a 7-game series, the better team wins it. Well, you know what? That's true in basketball. It's usually true in hockey. In fact, you might say it's always true, because if you've done it, then you've done it.
Totally.
But in this particular game, certainly in the first period, and you might argue overall, Boston was better. They were better, and they still got, in hockey terms, blown out. They lose 4-1 in this game, and that doesn't happen in basketball. If you are dominating, you are also dominating on the scoreboard. Now, we've all seen games where it's like, hey, this team looks like they should have been up 20, and they're only up 10. And it can go bad for that team if they don't pull away the way it feels like they should in say, a basketball game. But you're definitely not down 20 if you've dominated a half of basketball. Like, that's impossible. It is not impossible in hockey, and you saw it last night, and that's the sort of knife edge that hockey games can balance on, and that's why you never, ever know in a one-game scenario, in a Game 7 scenario, what in the world is going to happen. And even with the way the game's going, you don't know how it's going to go. And Boston certainly came out in the second period and went guns blazing again. I mean, all you need to get is one to then be down just one. And you also felt, hey, if they can sneak one by, maybe that is the thing that sort of helps to open the floodgates, so to speak. It just never happened. They got down 4-0, and by that time, the game is over. They score one goal, I think, with about 2 minutes to go. An empty net goal to get on the board at all. But St. Louis counterattack in the third period, got a couple more to go, and then just coasted to the finish line to their first ever Stanley Cup, and good for them to finally have one. And for that city, they're going to have a parade on Saturday, and a truly impressive performance. This is a team, Coulter, dead last in the NHL on the 2nd of January. This year, last 30 out of 30.
They fired their coach.
And 43 days later, we're still last.
It's unbelievable.
I've never seen something like this. And then they just make a run, and they were, quite frankly, the underdog in every single series.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with Robert Chase today, this morning, in fact. Robert's first day on the Mornings on the Trail. Good for Robert back in the AM. He said, Winnipeg, then Dallas, then San Jose, and then the Bruins. They are the underdog in absolutely every one of those series that they play, and found a way. Just kept finding a way, and it was one of those magical runs that you see teams go on sometimes. And certainly good for these individual guys. I mean, when you talk about Ryan O'Reilly, who won the Conn Smythe, and this group, most of whom have never touched the cup before. The Bruins win. Half of that team, if not more, is doing this again, or for the third time. For the Blues, I don't know if they probably got 2-3 guys that have ever won a Stanley Cup, if that. So this is an exciting time, and good for them. That's a tremendous win.
The last place on January 2nd thing and the fired coach thing is insane.
It's insane.
I actually did not even know that until today when Robert told me that, and I thought that was crazy.
Has there ever been, it's probably not the first time, but an interim coach winning the championship?
That's a good one. That's a good trivia
it's crazy.
question. I guess, is there a greater equalizer in sports than a red-hot goalie?
None. That it is so much more
because
influential than a quarterback.
A pitcher Josh Beckett had that epic run with the Marlins that one year where he was just unhittable. But he could only pitch once every 5 days. When you're red hot like this kid is, I mean, you're stonewalling the whole league.
I mean, you could make an argument about, say, a LeBron James and the influence that he has over a game.
But he's still only scoring 30 or 40 points. Whereas, I mean, like you said, last night, Boston actually outplayed St. Louis, and they lost 4-1 because they couldn't score, because this dude is straight up just like the Karate Kid. You can't get it by him. I mean, he's unbelievable. Just some of his saves, like there was one rally when Boston was even on a power play, and they had multiple shots. This guy is saving with his skate, his left leg, his pad, snatching it out of the air, taking it in the face. Insane. I mean, there was like 4 shots on goal in that one little power play, and he got them all.
Yeah, I think you could argue, and probably only in basketball, that there are a couple of individual players who would have more of an influence on the game. But there is no position in American sports that has more to do with winning and losing than the goalie in hockey. That is a fact. It's more important than the quarterback, and it's more important than the point guard. If you want to talk about that in basketball, it's more important than any position, and it is not close. So, and that's why, because if you get rolling like that, you're going to win. Or if you get weird with it, you're going to lose, right? If you all of a sudden just have one of those nights and it's not there for you, you're going to give up 4 goals on 11 shots, and your team's going to lose, even though you outshot the other team by triple or whatever it is. I'm using extreme examples, but it's tremendous. I love it when they carry the cup around. I know that there's been some pushback today because the microphone that was on the camera was live and was picking up all the things that you might say if you just won a Stanley Cup, most of which you can't say technically on the television. I understand that. And I understand, especially you got kids watching and stuff like that. We had kids that weren't really tuned in, but they were running around the house and so forth. And, first of all, it's a little bit muffled. I understand why people are upset about this. This doesn't bother me. This is pure.
No celebrating women's soccer, but I don't care if they celebrate after they win the Stanley Cup.
I mean, are you kidding me? You're going to straw man me like that with that sort of argument and that sort of overlay. Get out of here. You want to hear what I had to say? The podcast is up. TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, Spotify. You can go hear what I actually had to say and not get this. In any case, you have finally accomplished the goal, and really for the first time in almost all these cases, and the first time ever for this. It doesn't even matter. Even if it was if you win the Stanley Cup, it's on the network to be able to deal with whatever it is that goes on at ice level. But I like having that window into the truth, into the reality of the emotion and the feeling and the exuberance and what explodes out of that. Guys aren't out there trying to be crass, aren't out there trying to do something untoward. It is pure joy, man. And they're letting loose in the way that hockey players let loose in those moments. And that I appreciate. Okay. Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We're going to get out a little early here on this hour because we're going to come back. Jeff Choate, the head coach of the Montana State football team, the subject of our ESPN Roundtable, long-form interview with him. This aired yesterday on ESPN in Western Montana. It'll be for you statewide now on SWX and on YouTube. And I think an interesting conversation. It's an interesting time of year. It feels like a down time of year, but it's really not. We know this, at the college football level. We didn't get into a ton of stuff. Did we even talk about Chris Murray specifically?
No, not really. We didn't really talk about personnel either. We kind of just talked about the Montana State program and sort of just dealing with newfound expectations.
That's right. Newfound expectations, and also the life of a coach in general. And I think I always find the personal side of stuff the most interesting. The personal as it pertains to the profession. What is great about coaching? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? And all of those things. And I think you get some of that in this. So stick around. Jeff Choate right after this on ESPN Radio and SWX Montana Television.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Treat Dad right Father's Day with the Montana Club's awesome all-you-can-eat buffet, featuring all of the slow-roasted prime rib and glazed ham Dad can put away, plus bacon, sausage, eggs, sweet treats, fresh fruit, and more. Or bring them in for dear old Dad dinner specials like osso buco and steak Sinatra. We'll even treat Dad to a free brewski on Father's Day. Father's Day all-you-can-eat buffet from 8 to 2, or palate-pleasing Papa dinner specials 3 to close. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 Open Range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
Town Pump knows it's a beer and wine type of day. That's why we're happy to offer Modelo 12 packs for $11.99, and we've got your wine covered with our Sutter Home 750 milliliter bottles for a low $3.99. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up, oh yeah.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Hey, want to really heat up the grill this summer? Then load it up with smoking specials from the Good Food Store. Just in time for Father's Day, ground lamb from Big Timber's Montana Natural Lamb is on sale. And so are wild harvested head-on shrimp. So how about backyard surf and turf for Dad with lamb kebabs and Cajun shrimp? Of course, the Good Food Store is where you can also find him a grass-finished ribeye from Mannix Family Beef or Oxbow Cattle Company. And if he's been an extra special dad this year, head into Nest and surprise him with a Finex cast iron fry pan. Yeah, there's no shortage of Father's Day gift ideas when you shop for him here at the Good Food Store.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Following one of the most successful runs in Montana Prep small school history, Zanen Pitts is no longer the head coach of the Arlee Warriors. Wednesday night, Frank Gogol of the Missoulian reported that Pitts would step away as the head boys basketball coach in Arlee after 7 seasons at the helm. Pitts cited constant clashes with the school's administration as the primary reason for his resignation.
The Warriors are one of only 2 Class C teams ever to reach 4 consecutive state title games. Arlee won back-to-back state titles in 2017 and 2018, a run that included a Class C record 48-game winning streak. The Warriors finished as the runner-up to Manhattan Christian last season. Pitts was chosen as the Montana Class C Boys Basketball Coach of the Year after each state championship season, and he helped produce state MVPs Tyler Tanner and Philip Malatar, along with 8 total players who earned all-state honors. In 7 seasons, the Warriors posted a staggering 140-18 record for a win percentage of .886.
Seems pretty good. The roster for the 26th annual Knights of Columbus Badlands Bowl, the yearly all-star football game between Montana's best versus the top prep stars from North Dakota, was finalized Wednesday. That roster includes 6 future Montana State Bobcats and 4 future Montana Grizzlies.
And finally, former Montana State standout Tyler Hall, the all-time leading scorer in the history of the Big Sky Conference, had a private workout with the Chicago Bulls on Thursday. He is a native of Rock Island, Illinois.
Jeff Choate, the head coach of the Montana State Bobcats football team. Going to hear from him. Our interviewee on the ESPN Roundtable. It is Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at KurtzPolaris.com. If you missed anything at all in the first hour, we got you covered on the podcast. The podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify. The podcast is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. And we are appreciative. Everybody who listens there, go check it out. Rate it, review it, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. If you would like to call, you're welcome to do that as well. 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Quickly, Coulter, we got to update the people on what's going on at the U.S. Open. Pebble Beach. Certainly. First round going on. Ricky Fowler and Louis Oosthuizen in the clubhouse at 5 under, along with Xander Schauffele, who eagled 18 to get to 5 under on the last hole of his first round. So they're all in the clubhouse with 66 at 5 under. Scott Percy is in the clubhouse at 67 at 4 under. Justin Rose, not a bad start. He's 4 under. He's played 7 holes of golf.
You love Justin Rose?
No, I don't.
No.
I mean, I don't hate Justin Rose.
You like Justin Thomas?
I like Justin Thomas.
Okay. I just don't like those guys. I don't really know why.
I mean, you know, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
There's a big
Who
group.
are you going for?
Well, I'm going for, because I have an entertaining discussion ongoing with my brother-in-law. I am going for Rory McIlroy. So Rory McIlroy is in the clubhouse at 3 under. He shot a 68 today. There's a big group at 3 under, which includes Brooks Koepka, who is 3 under through 8 holes.
Okay.
So he's got a lot of time left. The conditions at Pebble Beach, it's cool. It's soft. A lot of holes that you traditionally can't go at. Guys are able to go at them because the balls are holding on the greens very well. And so, especially in this afternoon round, I thought this might change going from the morning to the afternoon. Usually the afternoon may be a little bit tougher. Not the case thus far. And so you're seeing some guys go pretty low. Justin Thomas right now, Justin Rose on absolute fire, birdieing 4 of his first 7 holes, and Brooks Koepka, the 2-time now defending U.S. Open champion, off to a pretty nice start as well, -3 through 8. We'll continue to update you. By the way, Tiger Woods 1 under, Jordan Spieth even. They are both still not even done with their first 9 yet. So it is time now for our ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls. And this week, we were happy to have Jeff Choate on with us. Appreciate his time on this to come on with us and talk to us about all things Montana State football and kind of football in general. A guy who's been a head coach at the high school level for a lot of years and then been an assistant coach both at the FCS and FBS level and the top of the FBS at Washington and was it in Florida where he was? I'm trying to remember where else he was.
Yep, D-line coach at both Florida and Washington. Yep, and Boise State obviously laid the groundwork there. I guess you should say Dan Hawkins laid the groundwork, and then Chris Peterson and his staff, which included Jeff Choate, took him to the top. Yep.
So he has been at every level really of football, from high school up to Power 5, and his first college head coaching job has been at Montana State, and it has gone well, and it has there's been progress each year that he's been there, and now including coming into this year, which we talk about, expectations on the Montana State football team that have not been there in Jeff Choate's tenure since he took over. And how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? And also, I think you asked a very insightful question. What do you like about coaching at the FCS level, having seen it at the FBS level and been there around that? And so I think there's some really interesting things that he's got to say about this, but we appreciate his time, and we'll let him speak for himself. So here you go. Presented by Paradise Falls, Jeff Choate on this week's ESPN Roundtable.
Welcome into the ESPN Roundtable this week, joined by 4th-year Montana State head football coach Jeff Choate. Coach Choate, thanks so much for being with us.
You bet.
Coach, entering a pivotal time of the year, I know this is a time that you are always very keen on, just the summer with all the players reporting back. you guys have done such a good job in your tenure of implementing these player-run practices. I know we talked in the spring a lot about just the culture you've been trying to build, and now the culture you think that you have with the fact that it is a player-run program. How much confidence does that give you coming into this summer, and what do you like about this time of year, even though you might be at arm's length with the players?
Yeah, I think that there's so many things that the summer does, and we were actually just having a conversation as a staff about, hey, do we want to do mandatory? Do we want to do voluntary? How do we want to look at this? And where we really landed was, we can back off this year a little bit in terms of letting the guys really kind of have that dual management approach, that player-led and player-run program and practices, primarily because we feel really good about the leadership that we have. And so, the three things that have to happen in the summer: your leaders have to emerge, you have to develop chemistry, both on and off the field, so that team building and team bonding time is so important. And then thirdly, you've got to build skill and conditioning base. And so I think our strength staff has really done an awesome job of that. Our leadership has improved and emerged to become stronger every single summer. And, we're excited about where we're at. It's a long summer. Our number one mantra is no drama. We want to make sure that every guy in the program is with us in the fall. And, Bozeman's a pretty good place to be in the summertime, but you got to, make sure everything's done in moderation.
You guys with 6 captains, I remember when you first took over, the coaching staff had a big say in who the captains were. This year, all player voted. So what do you think that says just about the fabric of your team and the culture in the locker room?
Yeah, I think it's time to let the kids kind of have more ownership in that. And I think, I make no bones about it. In most programs, the leaders of the program are the coaches. And I think that's just the way it is in most places. And when you do get a strong group of young men that understand what you're trying to get accomplished and they believe that they have a say in that, really their voice becomes so much stronger than yours as a coach in that locker room. And I think that's where we're at now. And, it's not just the guys. It's funny because, it could have been, it could have been any 6 guys. It could have been any 4 guys. It could have been 20 guys. I think we've got some really strong leaders that maybe didn't end up getting those votes. But that doesn't mean that they aren't, strong lieutenants, if you will. Every captain needs strong lieutenants.
Well, Coach, I know one of the cool things about college athletics and maybe football in particular is some of both the team building and then the community and even global impact that you can have. And you've worked closely with Habitat for Humanity in this offseason, sending a contingent to Poland and then doing some stuff in Livingston as well. And then you have the softball, game there for the first responders and all that. But why is that something that not just here and there, but something that seems like it's been a pretty big cornerstone of your program to have guys that are participating in civic and community service that way?
I think it comes down to really 2 things. Number one being our guys are really fortunate to live in a place where what they do matters to our whole community. You show up at Bobcat Stadium on Saturday afternoon, and you've got 18 to 20,000 people there. I think that sends a strong message to our kids that, hey, we've got an obligation to give back. And so that's certainly a big piece of it, is that idea of giving back and saying thank you to our community and letting them know that we want to be a strong member of the community. I think the other piece is opportunities for experience. The travel to Poland was obviously very special and unique, but, you even just going over the hill to Livingston and some of those guys had never been there, and just to see them look up and see the Zorki Mountains and go, wow, this is a pretty awesome place, and so they get that experience and that camaraderie and the idea of that's what college is about, right? Is learning, getting out of your comfort zone, stretching and growing as a man a little bit, and then realizing that, hey, for everything that you're given, you've got to give something back. And the more you give, the more you in turn get back. And I think our guys get that, and that's been pretty cool. I think it's been an awesome deal, and that whole concept of service leadership is something that we want to run through the entire fabric of our program.
Tell us some of the details about the house you guys built in Livingston. What was that experience like for you and the players?
Well, most of it was already built. They're not turning any really important carpentry jobs over to me or any of our players. It's mostly here's a shovel, here's a pick. A caulking gun or a paintbrush, and it's just kind of that mass labor, almost production style stuff that we can do that actually really helps them out a lot, because it is time consuming, and we bring 8-10 guys over and we can bang out a bunch of work in a short amount of time. That allows them to work on some of the finished carpentry and move the project faster, forward faster. So it's kind of interesting, and I do know, like when they were in Poland last year, I mean, they were laying masonry bricks and stuff like that, so it's a little bit more technical, and some of that probably depends on the sophistication of the community that you're in.
Jeff Choate joining us in the ESPN Roundtable, the head coach of the Montana State Bobcat football team. And Coach, you're from the area regionally, obviously, long history in Idaho, spent time in Washington and so forth. But now that you're in your fourth year here, you have really been integrated into Bozeman as a city and the Gallatin Valley as an area. What's your experience like now that you can that's a home to you now?
Yeah, I think going into year, so I've lived here for a little over 3 years. I think I moved here permanently in like April. I got my family over here of my first year. And so it's interesting. I think after this season, this will be like the second longest place I've ever lived in my life. So it's interesting that way. It does become home. And I think one of the things that's helped us plant roots is our kids. My son went to Bozeman High School and graduated from there. Now is a Bobcat. And then my daughter's going into her sophomore year. And so, that helps you to connect to other people in the community. And that's been probably one of the things that's been really enjoyable. My wife's from Southwest Montana. She has a little group of Beaverhead County high school grads that get together once a month and tell stories. And so I've kind of become an adopted member of that group. And, it's Bozeman's a great place to live. Gallatin Valley's a great place to live. I think everybody else has figured that out too, because this place is booming like crazy. But, it's been really a blessing to have our family here over the last several years, and looking forward to at least a few more.
You touched on, obviously your son graduating high school there and now becoming a Bobcat and going to MSU. What's it like for you to try and navigate, being the head coach that you are of the whole team and trying to treat everybody, with equally, and also obviously everybody understands, well, this is your son, so there's a different dynamic there. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's been pretty easy. Maybe not as much, I think, initially for Jory. I think he kind of had that chip on his shoulder, like, hey, I'm not just here because, I'm the coach's kid. I want to be my own man and prove myself. And he's kind of done that. I mean, he's a really hard worker, doesn't say a lot, just kind of keeps his head down and works, and has earned the respect of his teammates. And for me personally, I mean, I've always kind of looked at these guys all as my kids anyway, so I treat them all the same, good and bad. Our expectations and our standards don't change, whether your last name's Choate or your last name's Anderson or your last name's Thomas. You're all Bobcats. And so I think that consistency has helped him.
You mentioned just the way that Bozeman's changed, and I moved there in 2010, and just looking at it from the last decade or so, it's changed so much just in that amount of time. And you talk to people that have lived there for 20-plus years, and it's almost like a completely different town. It's a city now. I mean, it's a small city, and the way it's grown and just the momentum that the community has, it seems like it's having a positive and a forward-moving impact on pretty much all elements of the community. How does it affect you? I mean, how do you think it affects just the Montana State football program in general, and what do you think of just the momentum both Bozeman and Montana State University has?
Yeah, in terms of the impact that it has on us, you really do feel that this is a destination. I mean, this is a place that people will come. One of the things that I really appreciate is how many kids we're able to get on campus now. We might not be able to get every kid to camp because there's only so many days in the month of June when guys are running camps. But pretty much every day in July and late June, we've got families coming through with good football players who are like, hey, I'm going to come check out Bozeman because we're going to Yellowstone, or we're going to go up to Big Sky, or we're going to go whitewater rafting on the Gallatin, or we're going to go fly fishing on the Madison. I mean, it's amazing to me how this place just is kind of it's an international destination. There's people from all over the world here, but it's just become kind of one of those stars on the map that people go, we're going there. Oh, I heard about that place. We're going to go there. And so I think that has an impact on us being able to get more young men on campus. And right now, I mean, I'm looking out my window right now, and it's like, we had a snowstorm on Saturday, so that, the bridges are covered in snow, and it's emerald green, and the sun's out. I mean, you come here in this moment, you're going to go, oh, yeah, I'd like to be there. And now they forget that things are different sometimes in February, but it is what it is. And so I think that's really helped our program, and I think that you could really kind of tie the knot together on the community, the university. I mean, this place is such a draw, and the investment that Wadet has made, our president has made on the other side of campus in terms of I mean, it's unbelievable when you come here and you go. We had the 8-man camp last week, and these kids from, Shelby and St. Ignatius and Drummond and Peterborough
in Rendezvous, our new $19 million food service, and I mean their eyes are like silver dollars. They don't even know where to start. And so it's just the everything that we've done on the especially on the academic side of campus has been done in such a first class way that I think Bozeman exceeds everybody's expectations. Whether it's from the moment you get off the airplane into that airport to when you come on our campus, everybody's like, oh, it's so much better or different than I thought it was going to be in a positive way.
Well, I'll tell you what, multi-million-dollar eating facility, Coach. We'll beat you there tomorrow. I mean, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
You sold me.
You guys could do some damage in there.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Coach, let's shift over to some of the football stuff here. You have this program has progressed each and every year since you've been there and gotten better and better each year. And this year, I think, to me, one of the main shifts is that this year the Bobcats come into this season with tremendous expectations. Now, I know that internally coaches, players have expectations every year, but what's it like now to have that from the outside and being ranked in the top 15 in both polls, the top 10 in one of them? And how does that change the dynamic of what you do in these summer months heading into football season?
It's a good question. I mean, I've been a part of plenty of programs that have had preseason expectation at night. And you can spend a whole lot of time talking about it, but it really means absolutely nothing. And so what you got to do is you've got to take it. Hey, maybe getting a little bit more respect, but we got to go prove it. We've got to go work our tails off to live up to those expectations. And so, it's I do think this. I think that, and this is my experience from last year of going into the playoffs. Like, okay, what do you want to not do? You don't want to have to go far going round two. Okay, I figured that out. Right. And so, how do you not do that? Well, I think you almost have to be ranked somewhere in the top 25 in the preseason, even though it's a meaningless piece. But in order to climb the polls to get to a point where you're going to get a decent seed or get an opportunity to maybe host a couple of playoff games, it does come down to people think of you, And so that's a huge piece for us, is knowing that, hey, that at least puts us in the conversation, which can now allow us to accomplish some of these goals that we have.
ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls. Coach, in your 4 years, as you've been building this thing, what's been the biggest challenge that you've faced?
Been a lot of them. I don't think it's any one thing in particular. I think everything that you do is, there's challenges in everything that you do. I think me understanding this level of football was probably the first thing. Figuring out, okay, how does, the Rubik's Cube that is the FCS 63 scholarships, 85 fulls, how to use your partials, how to get a full roster. I mean, it took us a couple of years to really get to the point where we had a full roster. And, I think that was part of it. I think the culture building piece took a little longer than I thought it was going to. Everybody says 18 to 24 months. And I think that's probably right. And of course, I think, we all think, hey, we're just going to go in and get this thing fixed right away. And, I know how this is supposed to look. And so I'm going to fix it and wave this wand. That really didn't happen. But I think the reason that it has progressed is really, I believe this. Like we've had and when I say we, I mean our staff has had the fortitude to say, no, I believe in how we're going about doing this. This is the right way to do it. Even if the results aren't exactly what we want right now, if we have the courage to stay the course, we're going to win. And I think that our guys collectively believe that, and that seeped into our locker room. And when the worm started to turn and we started to get over that hump and win that 3 or 4 point game instead of losing it, the kids, especially the ones that have stuck through the hard times, looked at it and went, yeah, this is pretty awesome. I mean, Alabama football is Alabama football every year, okay? And up until recently, the Cleveland Browns have been the Cleveland Browns every year. One of the most difficult things to do in sport is to consistently improve. Go from average to below average or crummy, which we were our first year, to better, to better, to best. And that's hard to do. And it's a rare thing in sport.
You're a guy that's had experience at the highest level. You coached against Alabama. And, being at both Florida and Washington, you've seen what it's like to be in the Power Five and experience all the resources that are available, going and being able to recruit pretty much anybody you want. But now, 4 years in it seems like you've really grown fond of this level of football. Why? What is it about the FCS level that you like as a head coach?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because, honestly, this is where I always wanted to be. I had that 1 year at Eastern Illinois, and we had such an awesome experience that year. And the kids are different. I mean, they're it's not how are you going to get me to the league. which round am I going in? Should I come out early? Should I stay for another year because I want to get paid more? It's about, hey, man, I love ball. I love Bozeman. I love Montana State. I love hanging out in the locker room with the boys. I love going fly fishing. And, oh, by the way, we're pretty good players too, And I think there can be some perspective at this level. And that's not to say that, that the Power 5 level or the FBS level doesn't have some of that in it. There is definitely that element, and that camaraderie is one of the things that I think draws everybody to this sport. I just think it's a little more pure at this level. Very few guys are going to get the opportunity to play in the NFL at this level. And so it doesn't become as transactional. It's more about the relationships that you build, the experiences that you create. And I think you can really dig in on that at this level, and that's what I like about it.
You mentioned obviously having been at the Power 5 level, and you open up this season at the Power 5 level in Lubbock against Texas Tech. Does that change sort of maybe the focus? And I know you haven't even gotten into camp and all that stuff, but when you talk about preparing for a team and a trip like that, do you think that that's something that allows you to kind of motivate the guys maybe even a little bit more, knowing that that's where you're headed for day one?
Yeah, I think that first game always has interesting psychology, regardless of who the opponent is. Last year our first game was against Western Illinois. That was a huge game. We needed to win that game to put ourselves in a position where we can get to that 6, 7, 8 win kind of situation to get into the playoffs. And so, and this year it's a different animal. We're going to Lubbock, Texas. Heck, the biggest thing we got to worry about is a 3 o'clock kickoff on that turf. So
right.
We're probably going to have to change some of the things. Yeah, we're going to have to change some of the ways that we practice. We're not going to be able to simulate the heat. So instead of going mid-morning all the time, we're probably going to have to push the practices back a little bit so we can get into the heat of the day. And so I think from a preparation standpoint, it's a little bit different, which every year is. And then from a psychology standpoint, it is too. Because hey, no season is ever built on one game. Win, lose, doesn't matter. And it's so funny. You look at the NFL, and every year there's some team that rips out of the gate, wins 6 straight games, right? And everybody's anointed them the Super Bowl champion. And half the time they're either out of the playoffs in the first round or they don't even make it.
Right.
And so it's such a long season. You just got to put yourself in a position to have success. And I think that's, when I look at this 12-game schedule, I think it's a really good schedule, especially non-conference. And we might get beat up because we don't have on paper as strong an in-conference schedule. It's never going to work out right in the Big Sky. It's an unbalanced league. And we've played that up-end schedule each of the first 3 years I was here. We're just not playing it this year. I don't know why. I would much prefer to play Eastern Washington, Weber State, Idaho State. But that's just the way it didn't work out that way. But I know this. You never know in this league. Who's the team? Who went and got the bounce-down quarterback or the JUCO kid that's going to be lighting it up like UC Davis did a couple of years ago? You just don't know. And so the Texas Tech game, I think, gives us an opportunity to measure ourselves, and we've scheduled that way by design. I think we signed $2.3 million in guarantees since I've been here.
One of the things that's one of my favorite parts about doing my job and covering your program is just talking to some of the seniors that have been in the program for several years, and just the things they've learned from you and from your staff, and just what the program is all about. And it seems, I always credit you guys on our show. Just I think that you guys are some of the best guys I've been around as far as developing the young men, developing the personal side of this thing. But in college football now, even at the FCS level, it's such a high-pressure deal. You have to win to be able to maintain your employment, honestly. And so how do you balance that when you are – because you guys have done such a great job in terms of the internal stuff. Every guy that has graduated from your program has done – he has matured into a good man that's going to be a contributor in his community. But you have to balance it with the success. How do you do that? How do you not let the pressure get to you? And how do you weigh both the off-the-field stuff and the on-the-field stuff?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think a big part of that is you don't listen to outside noise. I think one of the reasons why I have a decent relationship, I'll use this example, Coulter. I think one of the reasons why I can have a good relationship with you, and this is, don't take no offense to it, I don't read anything you write. I think that's one of the things a lot of guys make that mistake, that I can be angry about something, how something comes across. Well, hey, I said it or I put it out there. If I don't allow it to affect me, then I can stay focused on the most important thing, which is preparing my team and preparing these young men for the rest of their life. And so I think that number one thing is don't listen to outside noise, whether it's local radio, local TV, etc. That's for other people. That's for the fans. That's not for me. And so I think that helps me to kind of keep my focus on what the main thing is. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier too, in terms of, believe in what you're doing. Have a strong conviction that how you're going about things is the right way. And, most of the time, the easy way can have temporary success, but it's not going to have long-term success. Doing things the hard way, that's usually the right way. And so I just believe in it. And the third thing is that, quite honestly, I know that I'm the 32nd head football coach at Montana State. Everybody has a shelf life in this business, especially when you're a head coach. And so you got to go into this thing understanding that. You can't take things personally. Hey, if I leave this place better than I found it, I've done my job.
102.9 ESPN Radio, SkylineSportsMT.com, the two biggest influences in Jeff Choate's life. You heard it here first. So make sure that we get that on the record. Coach, you were a high school coach, head coach for a long time. Then you've been on staff all over the place, and you're a coach as a profession. I mean, that's what you do. It's a vocation for you. What do you love about being a coach?
I think the opportunity to impact kids, man, see them grow. Whether that's, learning how to get their trail leg in the ground and go strike and create knockoff as a defensive lineman, or, understanding that, having a way to manage your day and understand how time management can impact your life in a positive way, or challenging them about what their vision for their life is. I mean, all of those things is what coaching is and teaching. And, getting to see young people develop. And for me now, that includes my coaching staff. That's probably the biggest change from being an assistant to being a head coach is, obviously, I coach the coaches. I've got some young guys. I've got some really bright guys. And so seeing those guys kind of grow and mature is rewarding as well.
There's been an evolution of your staff with a lot of guys coming back to the fold and some changes just in the roles that everybody's going to have. What do you like about the staff that you're going to bring into the 2019 season?
Energy. I mean, I think a lot of times there's, when change happens, you get an opportunity to kind of reinvent and re-energize your organization, and I really feel like that's what's happened. A lot of guys are just, guys like Kane, very excited to be back, very excited for the opportunity. Guys like Nate Potter, who's a really bright guy who, you can tell he and Matt and Byron had such a close relationship as players at Boise State back in the day. And that positive energy, that vibe it kind of permeates through the office and down into the locker room.
With a guy like Kane, or even, if I could point at the basketball team, a guy like Danny Sprinkle coming in, how important is it at a place like Montana State and football at the FCS level to have guys who have been successful from the school that they're coaching at to be a part of that thing and the firsthand sort of vision and stories that they're able to relay, whether it's in recruiting or even to the program, to the guys that are there?
Yeah, bingo, man. I think that's huge. I think my job is to provide the big picture, direction, vision for the program. But nobody's going to be able to sell the experience like somebody that lived it. And I think we have a very unique situation here. I mean, we've got 3 first-team All-Americans that have played at Montana State in 3 different eras. With Kane being a 4-time All-American here, Bobby being a 2-time All-American here, Denarius being a 2-time All-American here, multiple time Big Sky Player of the League on offense, and then even our director of football operations in Cole Moore, who was the team captain here. And so it's huge when you sit in the living room and these guys. I mean, you can just feel it. It'll evoke emotion when you listen to them tell about their experience and their time here in Bozeman, Montana State. And so I think it's one of the first things I knew when I hired my first staff was I need to build it on people that I have experience with, that I know, they know me. And then when I get the opportunity to kind of reinvent the staff as we go, I need to bring more Bobcats back, and that's been a priority.
Getting down to it, Bill Lamberty's been rolling out his Bobcats by the numbers, counting down the days to kick off, and we're less than 100 days, maybe even less than 90 days at this point, Coach. So what does the next couple of months look like for you, your staff, your program?
Yeah, so, we kind of grind through the month of June. A lot of our guys are in one of the 4x4s for summer school here, working jobs, training in the morning, and then we're doing football camps. We've got youth camps this week, 11-man team camp the following week. On the weekends, we have prospect camps, and so you kind of go through really that last week in June, and then we have an orientation, and we have our summer bridge program starting on the 24th. So really, almost all of the guys that are going to be in the program will be here by that time. And then we get a little break over the 4th of July. Players do, as well as the coaches. We get back and we kind of have a sprint to the finish, about a 2.5-week training session, peak training session that goes through for the players. The coaches get a little bit of time off here and there. And then that second to last, well, I think it's about the 23rd of July, we all start back up rolling. And so the players will get some time off, but we'll be in the office coaches. And I think we report on the 31st, and our first practice is on the 1st of August.
Jeff Choate, head coach of the Montana State Bobcat football team. And, Coach, we'll wrap up with you on this one, a two-part question, two different questions of the same coin. What are you most excited about heading into this year, and what is keeping you up at night right now?
Probably the thing I'm most excited about is just these kids like each other. That you can just tell that there's a fondness within that locker room. And that's, I mean, at the end of the day, when organizations of any kind succeed at a high level, it's because they stop worrying about themselves and they start worrying about each other. And that's what I'm most excited about, is to see how these guys, how this kind of this love that they have for one another is going to carry us through. And I'm excited about that. I really am. The stuff that keeps me up at night, drama. That's what keeps me up at night. I can't control whether a kid's going to get injured or not. But I think every Division I head football coach in the country probably says the same thing. This is the time when the player, you really have to have good leadership, because the players do have a lot of discretionary time. We don't structure their days the way we do during fall camp or during the season. And so, you just want to make sure you get all your soldiers with you when you're going to battle. That's what I want.
Well, you got a great place to eat, so it seems like an excellent place to congregate and stay out of trouble out there just plowing through, getting the calories knocked out,
Yeah, there you go. No, well, you guys are always welcome. Rendezvous.
You got it. That sounds good to me. I'll sit on the end in awe of the amount of consumption that's done by that group of 85, 90 guys. Hey, Coach, we really appreciate the time. You've been very generous with it. Thanks so much. We can't wait for the season and look forward to tracking you and your team this coming fall, okay?
All right. You bet, guys. Thanks for your time. Go Cats.
Lubbock, Texas, week 1. And right on from there for Montana State, the number 8 and or 14th team in the nation, the two preseason polls. And regardless of what the number is, certainly high expectations for Montana State this year, which is a good thing, because they've worked their way and earned their way into those expectations. And obviously, if you have expectations, it could go badly. But also it could go badly if you got no expectations. So it's better to have them, and certainly the arrow is high for the Bobcats, and I can't wait to see this team, to see this offensive line, to see this defense, to see this quarterback, whoever it might be, play football over there in Bozeman and throughout the course of the season. Well, heck, I just can't wait for football, let's be honest. But it's going to be great, and I'm excited to watch all of these teams play, and they got the potential to do something really special in Bozeman this year.
So I got several things to say. First of all, people forget that the 12-game schedule at the FCS level rotates. It only occurs once every 4 or sometimes 5 seasons.
Because of Thanksgiving.
So there hasn't been a 12-game schedule since 2014. And the FBS plays 12-game schedules. But it's impactful for FCS and specifically Big Sky Conference teams, because when you're trying to make your schedule, like Montana State has the last couple of years, Montana State has gone down the road with Jeff Choate of, we're going to play competitive FCS opponents. We're going to try to play a non-conference that includes, like last year, Western Illinois, who's coming off a playoff berth, South Dakota State, who's number 2 in the country when they played them, and they wanted to play strong FCS programs. They've done that for the last 3 years. Well, that comes with a caveat, though. It means you don't play a money game. And we'll do a segment on this next week, money games. What does that mean? Because I think there's this giant perception out there that if you're an FCS team and you play an up game, a money game, you play Oregon, you play Texas Tech, that you're just going to decimate your roster. And I would say that you have an equal chance of getting hurt no matter what sort of football you're playing. And I have, as a guy that's covered Big Sky Conference football for 13 years, I've seen way more devastating injuries against D2 schools than I have against FBS schools because of the difference in the speed of the game and all sorts of factors. We'll get into it more. What I'm saying, though, is it's going to be fascinating because the Big Sky Conference plays a ton of Pac-12s as well as other FBS opponents, like Montana State playing Texas Tech. And honestly, if you're looking at all the matchups, I don't think that Montana State's going to go to Lubbock and beat Texas Tech by any means. But when you talk, it's the most fascinating of the matchups because you have an actual established program that has a lot of momentum, but one glaring question mark in terms of quarterback, taking on a Texas Tech team that's completely in flux. No one knows what Matt Wells is going to run at Texas Tech. Texas Tech has been Mike Leach, Graham Harrell, Cliff Kingsbury. Same thing, air raid. But no, Matt Wells is running a variation of the spread at Utah State, but everybody is. How much difference Texas Tech going to look? Is that an influx of energy that gets them a boost, or are they stuck in the mud with a new head coach that's very different than the last 20 years, basically, of their program? Who knows? It's an intriguing matchup. The other thing I got to say is that Montana State, because they're playing a money game this year, and because sort of most of the schedule that you inherit is the luck of the draw, right? It depends on what Big Sky games you got to play. Montana State's schedule has been so competitive the last couple of years because not only have they chosen to play teams like South Dakota State home and home out of conference, but they've also had to play Eastern Washington, Weber State during their league schedule. Well, this year, the tables are turned. Montana has to play Eastern Washington and Weber State this year. Montana State does not. They don't have Weber or Eastern on the schedule. That is finally an advantage in their favor. Like you heard Jeff Choate say there, I'm not about it. I'm trying to play Weber State and Eastern Washington because that's the Big Sky. The other teams are just kind of like these floating members. But regardless, it does cater to Montana State having a chance to make a run, even if I've heard from a ton of people. There was that segment we did about Montana State being preseason number 8 in the Athlon Sports Poll and saying, hey, we think Montana State's pretty good, but let's pump the brakes a little bit. I heard from so many people that were saying, hey, we agree. Let's prove something. But the thing is, when you lay out the schedule, they have a real chance. Games are not played on paper, and who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's going to get hurt? Who knows who's going to be the surprise teams? Who knows any of that? Montana State's first 6 conference games are against the 6 teams in the league that they should certainly beat. And so they have a chance to come into November 6-0 without having played anybody. That's a double-edged sword because you might be rolling, like Bobby Hauck used to say, there's no such thing as bad momentum. Coach Hauck used to always, first time around, he would always play Western State and all these other, very mediocre non-conference games. You play Cal Poly game 1, and then you play a couple games you're for sure going to win at home. Because like Coach Hauck would say, well, if I'm on an 8 or 9 game winning streak going into November, I don't care who the 9 wins are against. I won 9 in a row.
Well,
come beat me.
And it is true. I mean, 6-0. If they're that, it does not matter who they are. If in the Big Sky Conference, that's impressive. But here's the thing. If, say, Montana State on the whole season goes 7-2 in conference,
7-1 or 6-2, 8 conference games.
Oh, is it 8? Okay,
8.
So
it's not an extra conference game; it's an extra non-conference game. But regardless,
say they go 7-1 or even 6-2.
Sure.
No one that's doing the rankings nationally is going to take any note of who, even if they haven't played 2 of the 3 best teams in the Big Sky, for instance. Or whatever, 3 of the 4, whatever, it does not matter. If they sit there and they go, if you're 6-2 in the Big Sky Conference, and presumably, say you split them or whatever in the non-conference, and now you're an 8-win team and a top 1 or 2 team in the Big Sky, probably at that point, you're getting a seed in the tournament. And so it sets up well for Montana State, who is going to be good. They're going to be good, period. And then whatever, whoever they got to play throughout the course of the season, is again, no fault of their own. And that's something that the conference, Tom Wistrcill and the rest need to take a look at and need 100%. To figure out what, how to deal with this because, missing a team or 2 each year and rotating through is one thing. Missing nearly half of the teams, no.
And even if this is, even if you're going to be completely cynical about it and say, hey, this is just all about money, that's the most ironic part about the unbalanced schedule in the Big Sky Conference, is if you just straight up say this is all about money, you're wasting money by playing an unbalanced schedule. If you have Montana State going to California twice, you're wasting money when they just take a bus to Eastern Washington. Montana State should play Eastern Washington every year. It's a bus trip, but that's never going to fly because then it creates an even more unbalance because you're going to have the 3 flagship programs in the league always playing each other. But all the coaches worth anything will tell you that's what they want. It's a messed up situation. The last thing I'll say on this, because I know we're up against it, we got to get out. I truly think that Montana State has a ton of talent. I think that the two biggest factors in their season, three biggest factors. One, luck. Can they stay healthy? That's a huge. I mean, I think that's a top three factor in every football team at all levels seasons. Two, can they stay out of their own way? Because I truly think that if you could just bite the bullet and choose a quarterback and just roll with him, I don't think the thing is, it doesn't matter who plays quarterback for Montana State. And when I say that, this is what I mean. Quarterback is the position that's going to win you games, the very least, for the way their roster is constructed. But it's also the position that could lose you a lot of games, especially if you're doing this quarterback carousel thing. They should just find a dude, whether it's Tucker Rovig or Casey Bauman, roll with him. And if he's mediocre, that's fine, because you have great play. You have potentially the best offensive line in the league, potentially one of the three best running backs in the league in Isaiah Fonse, and potentially the best defense in the league. So play that style of football. That's what you already done. You made the playoffs doing it last year. Do it again. So I really think it comes down to not getting in their own way, having good luck, and if they seize momentum, how do they handle it? Because that's going to be the most fascinating part to me. Jeff Choate has preached his vision relentlessly. It has come to fruition to this point. Bottomed out probably more than people wanted early, but playoffs year 3 is a pretty good step for them in terms of fulfilling his vision. If they really do harness momentum, if they really are a top 10 team, if they really do carry momentum into November, how do they handle that? How do they handle the pressure of that? That's going to be a huge factor in their season 2.
If you missed any part of it or you want to hear any part of it, the ESPN Roundtable, it's available at SkylineSportsNowMT.com as part of the
have that uploaded later on tonight or maybe tomorrow. In the meantime, Jamar Coe's interviews up there as well. And we have all sorts of podcast content right now, Skyline Sports. Go check those out.
This Skyline Sports and ESPN Roundtable is brought to us, Coulter, by Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls there on the south end of town near the corner of Brooks and Reserve.
Game 6 tonight, NBA Finals. Can't think of a better place to watch in Paradise Falls. They got 30 big screen TVs. They got 18 draft beers on draft. By the way, one of our new beer partners, Widmer Brothers Brewing. There is a draft handle there, so go check out some Widmer Brothers. Being that it's a Thursday, best late happy hour in town, 9 to 11, $3 draft beers, all crafts, everything, $3, 9 to 11. So if you go watch the game there, maybe then you have a little cocktail afterwards, half-price cocktails, half-price appetizers. You can sit on the deck. You can watch the game. Great place for Father's Day brunch this week as well. They have a bunch of specials going on. Check out their website, Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street in Missoula, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
Right now at Carl Tyler Chevrolet, take advantage of employee pricing and up to $7,500 in rebates on all 2018 Silverados. Get the most out of your summer with a reliable truck that'll take you anywhere during Carl Tyler Chevrolet's June Silverado sell down. Save $11,719 on select 2018 Silverado 1500s. View our full inventory at gmofmontana.com or 3663 North Reserve Street. Carl Tyler Chevrolet. Find new roads.
Good news! Missoulians can finally move into what we love best, being outside. Garden City Paint and Glass can help you get a head start on all those outside home improvement projects. Now is also a great time to start getting a jump on cracked windows and broken screens. Enjoy up to 25% off select products. And be sure to watch for PPG rebates to help the job along. Look good, stay comfortable, and keep energy costs down at Garden City Paint and Glass, 3217 Brooks or 549-0608.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
When you're thirsty, Town Pump has your back. Stop in today for Miller and Coors 18-pack cans for $16.99. We've also got 5-hour energy shots, 2 for $5. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up, oh yeah.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from Tutel Nuanez 1029 ESPN Missoula, here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom got me a great deal on an automatic car starter this winter. Now it's summer. What sort of stuff you guys got going on down there, Tom?
Well, Colter, coming into the summertime, we're picking up on the window tinting front. So if you need your windows tinted, give us a call. We'll get you scheduled up. Boats and ATVs are starting to come in full swing, and we're also starting to see the hot rods come out to play. Anything audio related, let us know. We'll get you taken care of.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Come check out the best late happy hour in town at Paradise Falls. Offering $3 micro brews, half-price cocktails and appetizers, and much more. Paradise Falls late happy hour runs from 9 until 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday nights. If you're in the mood for an evening cocktail or you're just getting off the golf course, swing on by 3621 Brook Street. As the days grow longer, come enjoy the sunset on Paradise Falls' spacious back deck while enjoying a beverage. Paradise Falls, located at 3621 Brook Street, open 7 a.m. to midnight. Paradise Falls, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening, Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Following one of the most successful runs of Montana Prep small school history, Zenon Pitts is no longer the head coach of the Arley Warriors. Wednesday night, Frank Gogol of the Missoulian reported that Pitts would step away as the head boys basketball coach in Arley after 7 seasons at the helm. Pitts signed constant clashes with school administration as the primary reason for his resignation.
The Warriors, one of the great Class C teams ever. They reached 4 straight state title games, only the second time that's ever happened. Won back-to-back state titles, 2017, 2018, and that run included a 48-game win streak, the most ever in Class C. Last year, they were the runner-up to Manhattan Christian. Pitts, chosen as the Montana Class C Boys Basketball Coach of the Year after each state title season, helping produce state MVPs Tyler Tanner and Philip Malatar, along with 8 total players who earned all-state honors in 7 seasons. The Warriors posted a absolutely staggering 140-18 record for a win percentage of .886.
The 6th game of the NBA Finals is forthcoming this evening. In under an hour and a half, it will be the final game in the history of Oracle Arena in Oakland, California. Golden State down 3-2 and also down Kevin Durant, who underwent surgery to repair a ruptured Achilles tendon, which he suffered in Game 5.
And finally, in breaking news, Billing Skyview Jr. Jordan Rowe, honored as the 2018-2019 Gatorade Montana Girls Soccer Player of the Year, first ever Skyview Falcon to win the award.
NBA Finals, Game 6. Pumped up about this one. This is Tutel Nuanez, 109 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Fritz Polaris Studios. Fritz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at fritzpolaris.com. If you would like to listen live and you're not near your radio, check out the stream. It is on the Opportunity Bank podcast stream. It is on the website, 1029ESPN.com. And the stream brought to us by your local bank, your Opportunity Bank.
A few teases for tomorrow. This was actually unbelievably jam-packed day for being a June 13th. And so we didn't even do, usually we do segments on some of our Sports Center stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of one thing leads to the other. But tomorrow we'll have a Prep Extra talking about Jordan Rowe, that we recently named Montana Girls Soccer Player of the Year. That'll be fun. As well as the coaches and players for the 26th Annual Knights of Columbus Badlands Bowl, the Mondac game, All-Star game, one of the great All-Star games. Montana's dominated that thing lately, but the best of the best in Montana. So we'll let you know who's on that roster, and we'll even talk a little bit about Tyler Hall and his NBA prospects, because he's getting some private workouts, which is pretty cool. Especially, that's the thing, is if you get called in for a workout by the Chicago Bulls as a kid who was once upon a time Mr. Basketball in the state of Illinois and grew up a Bulls fan, grew up 3 hours south of Chicago, pretty darn cool. So we'll have all that stuff, plus a couple fun U.S. Open things for you guys tomorrow.
Quick update on the U.S. Open. Aaron Wise has now gotten to 5 under, joining 3 leaders at 5 under. Louis Oosthuizen, Xander Schauffele, and Ricky Fowler all in the clubhouse at 5 under. Aaron Wise is playing number 16. Got 3 holes left. He is at 5 under. Scott Percy and Nate Lashley, are both at 4 under. Brooks Koepka was 4 under through 6 holes, then bogeyed. What happened there, Brooks? Falling apart on number 8. He is still 3 under through 11 as they continue play at the U.S. Open. Colter, Game 6 tonight, NBA Finals. We're going to do 2 quick hitters on this thing. First, the thoughts that you have about the final game in Oracle. This is a significant game. for a lot of reasons. This team finally came out of the doldrums of American sports. The Golden State Warriors or the Cleveland Browns, however you want to put it, of the NBA, and then all of a sudden they have become, this is not in question, one of the great NBA teams of all time already. How 100%. Far they will go, we don't know, but they've done it, and they've done it in Oakland, and they've done it in Oracle, and the crowd has been special. I know everybody's talking about Toronto and talking about some different places and so forth, but Orlando, in Oakland, when it first came to Oracle, 5 years ago, was a revel. It was college type atmosphere there at Oracle, and maybe even more so. And so a special and emotional night tonight, and yet one that you got to have if you're the Golden State Warriors. So a weird sort of dynamic to navigate today.
No doubt. It's been one of the craziest evolutions because Oakland is a city, like you said, Oakland and San Francisco are yin and yang. And Oakland is the sort of, lack of a better word, the grimy, working class, tough, hard-nosed. We have a ton of pride in us. And the Oakland Raiders and the Golden State Warriors had such a similar persona and similar struggles, too. And people will forget, the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum opened in 1966. It wasn't named Oracle Arena until the tech boom. This is only a recent thing. This was the Oakland Coliseum 2.0 of basketball.
Yeah.
It's the oldest arena in the NBA. And the glitz and glam and the money and the Silicon Valley thing and the city, the town, all this stuff, that's all new. That's all brand new to the Warriors.
Yeah.
So you have a whole bunch of old school tradition that's not necessarily tied to success, but it is tied to nostalgia. But I'm so interested to see how this new downtown San Francisco arena works out. It's almost as if they want the parking to be a nightmare to make the thing exclusive. That sounds like it's a nightmare to me. But all that said, there's going to be so much energy in the arena tonight from both the old guard, the new, everybody involved. When you're talking about the last of something that's a guarantee, win, lose, or draw, this is the last game in the oldest arena in the NBA. It's going to be pandemonium.
Yeah, it will be. All right, quick break. Come back. We'll talk about the game itself next.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. In western Montana, we know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Treat Dad right Father's Day with the Montana Club's awesome all-you-can-eat buffet featuring all of the slow-roasted prime rib and glazed ham Dad can put away, plus bacon, sausage, eggs, sweet treats, fresh fruit, and more. Or bring them in for dear old Dad dinner specials like osso buco and steak Sinatra. We'll even treat Dad to a free brewski on Father's Day. Father's Day all-you-can-eat buffet from 8 to 2 or palate-pleasing Papa dinner specials 3 to close. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
It happens. You're positive you put your bank card back in your wallet, but the next time you need it, it's missing. Avoid the panic and take control with the MyCard app and debit card from Farmers State Bank. Our app lets you control your debit card and securely turn it off right from your phone. Safe, secure, instant. MyCard is available only at Farmers State Bank. Ask about it at any of our 9 locations or learn more at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
You would think an especially cold winter would be followed by a cooler than usual summer, right? Mother Nature? Logical? Too funny. Luckily, Liberty Electric is here to even the score. Whether you need an electrical upgrade so you can finally install that air conditioner system you've been dreaming of, or maybe just a few ceiling fans will do the job, the professionals at Liberty Electric are here to help. This summer, don't get caught wishing for winter. Stay cool with the help of Liberty Electric. Call 541-WIRE. That's 541-9473.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Just over an hour away, Game 6, Toronto Golden State from the Oracle. Have it for you right here, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, listen on the podcast. Podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, Podbean, Spotify. Podcast is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Coulter, okay.
Okay.
Can we finally get into this?
Okay.
Now that we got 3 minutes to go.
Yep.
Give me. You're down 3-1. Yep. You have this emotional and unbelievable and historic game for a lot of different reasons.
Yep.
Golden State wins by a point.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people go, well, there you go. That's all they needed. Now they go home, they win at Oracle, and it's a Game 7, and let's see what happens. I am the dope who came on this radio and said the only thing that's impossible is that Toronto goes in and wins 2 at the Oracle Arena against Golden State. No chance that's going to happen. Guess what? Get off the radio, sports guy. What do you know? That's exactly what they did. So I'm not going to sit here and go, well, they're not going to lose the last game at Oracle or any of that kind of stuff. Toronto's too good. Kawhi Leonard is too good. And this series has been too bizarre to me to sit here and make any prediction about this. But I am picking Golden State to win it. But I am
just this game.
But I got no presupposition about what in fact is going to happen here tonight. I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how it's going to happen, but I just cannot see one of the great dynasties in the history of the NBA, after losing one of their superstars, losing the last game at Oracle Arena. I don't know how the Warriors are going to do it. I think it will be a very hard-fought game because I do not think that Toronto is scared whatsoever. But I do think the Warriors will win. I do think we'll have a Game 7 in Toronto, and I cannot wait to analyze that game. If the Raptors win in Oracle, they close out this series in the last game in Oracle Arena, is one of the signature wins in the history of the NBA. No question.
Yes, I mean already that we're at this spot. It's been among the most outstanding and also I think unpredictable and unexpected runs in NBA history. To have now won 15 postseason games as the Toronto Raptors against, first of all, was it Philadelphia, and then to do what they did. Who did they beat? No, it was Philadelphia that they beat, and
yes,
yeah, okay,
and then Milwaukee.
Right, and then the Bucks, of course. You don't even remember them because of what happened.
The best team in the NBA, forget about them.
And then and now against Golden State, truly unbelievable. I don't think you can top Game 5. I still can't wait for Game 6. It's going to be great. How will Golden State respond though to Durant being out? Because without Durant, hadn't gone great for them. Boys and girls, enjoy Game 6. We'll be back with you tomorrow. We'll talk about what happened, more U.S. Open. We'll see you then, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana TV.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
If you need to buy a car, go to Flanagan's. Flanagan's. Stevens Avenue is where they are. Go to Flanagan's. 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 Flanagan's.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever just in time for summer. There's our exclusive open range AT that we believe is our quietest, smoothest, and best all-season traction tire ever, or the Reputation, our exclusive high-mileage premium passenger tire. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 open range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Nothing says Florence coffee like a real huckleberry smoothie. Our real huckleberry smoothies are made with real huckleberries that grow high up on the mountainsides of Montana. Drive to any of our Flowco locations throughout western Montana and try a delicious real huckleberry smoothie. And visit us at florencecoffeeco.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
Jayco and Rangich Brothers are teaming up once again. We take pride in being Western Montana's #1 Jayco dealer and strive to continually offer you the best quality, pricing, and reliability. To celebrate the arrival of summer, we are offering June hot buys. From RVs to parts and service, we got you covered. Save big on Jayco J-Flight SLX, 264 bunkhouse travel trailer, Sleep 7 starting at only $14,995 with payments as low as $149 per month OAC. Don't miss our June hot buys going on now. Only where a handshake means something. Rangich Brothers RV Center.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.